Mehoram hu machshavotecha. Oginavun v'seva t'shenim raramim yehu v'hagiti ashar Adonai tzuri v'lo avlahat avon. We're going to turn ahead now to page 81 and invite you to join with me in Psalm 30, page 81. He's more shir chanukata by the Nabi. Five lines from the bottom of the page. Shema Adonai v'chaneni Adonai hayeh verli Shema Adonai v'chaneni Adonai hayeh Shema Adonai v'chaneni Adonai hayeh zerli Hafachta bismi macholi bitachta saki v'tazreni simcha Laman yizimecha chavo v'lo yidam Adonai Elohai Leolam Odecha. As we prepare for this first mourner's Kaddish, we are all aware that there is great heartache and pain in South Florida as rescue workers continue to search through the rubble of the apartment building that collapsed in Surfside. And as we say these words of remembrance in memory of our own loved ones, we invite us to keep in our hearts and our prayers those who have lost loved ones and who are among the missing. Page 82, those observing a yard side in the morning, please join with me. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, v'yalmad v'yibrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei v'chol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala u'bizman kariv v'yimru Amen. Yehei shemei Rabba barach v'olam amei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yithalev v'yithalal shemei v'kudesha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush b'chata v'nechemata damiran v'yalma v'yimru Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru Amen. Oseh shalom v'romav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru Amen. If you're able to rise, we invite you to turn to page 83 and to do so. If it's difficult to stand, please remain seated. Baruch She'amar, we give thanks and blessing to God who creates the world with speech. Baruch She'amar v'haya ha'olam, Baruch Haseh Bereshit, Baruch Omer v'Hoseh, Baruch Gozer u'Mekayem, Baruch Merachem al haaretz, Baruch Merachem al habriot, Baruch Meshalem Sachar Tov Leream, Baruch Ha'ad V'Kayam La'netzach, Baruch Kodeh U'Matzil, Baruch Shema. Yachid Cheholamim Melech Meshubach V'Radet Shmo HaGadol Baruch Adonai We invite you to be seated. Turn ahead with us to the Great Hallel, page 92, Psalm 136. Before we start singing this refrain, Ki le'olam chasto, God's chesed is everlasting. See if you can find, as you think about the week that is now ending, part of your week in which you have felt a sense of God's blessing and God's chesed in your life. Page 92. We'll do the first 4 lines, and we will do the last 4 lines following. Hodu l'Adonai ki tov, ki le'olam chasto. Hodu le'Elohim ha'Elohim, ki le'olam chasto. Hodu l'Adonai ha'Adonim, ki le'olam chasto. Yosani fla'ot gedolot levado, ki le'olam chasto. Shavish bilenu zachar lahanu, ki le'olam chasto. Vayifrekenu mitzareinu, ki le'olam chasto. Notein alechem lechol basar, ki le'olam chasto. Hodu le'el hashamayim, ki le'olam chasto. Think about your life and all that we've been through, ki le'olam chasto. We are blessed to be back together now in person. Ki le'olam chasto. You've got a chesed that's in your heart. Ki le'olam chasto. But right now our gratitude is we are back together. Ki le'olam chasto. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. There are children who are davening with us this morning. It is so good to be together on Shabbat in community. Turn ahead with me to page 96. Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha. It is a source of joy and happiness when we are together sitting in your divine dwelling place, this house of worship, together as a community. Join with me. Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha. Od Hallelujah. Od Hallelujah. Selah. Zecher Abtucha Yaviru. פותח את ידך ומספלך חרצון. תהילת אדוני ידבר בי, יברכו בשר, שם קודשו לעולם ועד. ואנחנו נברך מעתה ועד עולם. Hallelujah. Page 100, the middle of the page. Kol hanishama, Hallel Yah, hallelujah. Each and every soul will sing your praise, O God. Page 100, Psalm 150. Kol haneshama ateh hallelujah. Hallelujah. Kol haneshama ateh hallelujah. Hallelujah. Baruch Elohim Elohei Israel Senech Lo Bevado Baruch Shem Kvodo Yolam V'Melech Vado Et Kol Haaretz. Amen v'amen. We'll invite you to rise as we continue now. Second paragraph of page 102, the Song of the Sea, third line from the second paragraph, Ozi v'Zimrat Yah. Ozi v'Zimrat Yah, v'Yehili Yeshua. 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 Adonai Imloch le'olam va'ed. Adonai Imloch le'olam va'ed. Ki l'Adonai hamlucha Moshe v'goyim va'alu Moshe bar Tzion lishpot et har Esav. Vayitach l'Adonai hamlucha v'haya Adonai melech kol ha'aretz. Vayom hahu yi Adonai echad u'shemo echad. I want to invite you to be seated before we conclude this Pesukei de Zimra, these opening verses of Psalms and praise to God. Just as Rob asked the question, it's a little bit strange that the words that we start our service with, whether it's Shabbat or a weekday or Matovu Ohalecha, how good are your tents, people of Jacob, Mishkanotecha Yisrael, your dwelling places, your holy dwelling places, you, the people of Israel. And one of the things that we were thinking about yesterday is that Bilam goes out to curse the Israelites. That's the charge he's given by Balak, because Balak is afraid that the Israelites will overrun the Moabite people. And so he wants to take the greatest prophet of his generation and put a curse on the Israelites, which will hopefully, according to Balak, that will prevent the Israelites from defeating them in battle. But instead, because Bilam can only utter the words of truth as a prophet of God, when he looks upon our people, he offers those words of blessing. How good it is to see you, the people of Israel. And one of the things that we are reminded of is that sometimes in the source of our greatest difficulties, that which appear to be our curses, we are able to find some blessings throughout them. And I don't want to say that that's always possible. I want to acknowledge that there are some pains that are so deep and so great, we don't get to a sense of blessing. But many of us find that in retrospect, some of the things that we've suffered through the most deeply become our greatest sources of strength and blessing. And so in this week's parasha of Parashat Balak, in which the prophet Bilam ends up blessing that which began as a curse, I hope that each and every one of us is able to find that this difficult time that we have been through, as hard as it has been, has also been a time in which you have found some blessing. And I also want to say again how much of a blessing it is to be together with all of you in this room. We'll conclude the Sukkot Simra with Nishmat, page 140, where the Chazan leads us in the Shachrit service, page 104. Nishmat kol chai, Ilufinu male shira kayam u'shominu minah. Mimitzrayim galtanu Adonai Eloheinu, mibeit avadim b'ritanu. Eine b'rin Shabbat. Nehalel chan shabechacha, nevarecha nevarechet shem chadshecha ka'amor. David barchi nafshi et Adonai b'chol ra'alai et shem chadsheho. Ha'el b'tatzumaho tuzecha. Hagadol b'chol shemecha, hagibor lanetzach v'nora v'norotecha. Hamelech ha'yosheim, al chiseram v'nisram. I'm going to mute myself because I know that Cantor is going to now unmute himself for those who are watching at home. And we are continuing now, page 105, Shochet Ad, in the middle of the page. Shochet בפי שרים תגלל, ודברי צדיקים תתפרח, ובלשון חסדים תתרומם, ובקרב קדושים תתקדש. ומחלות רדיפות, עמך בית ישראל. שגר ויצרים לנעון עלינו ולעוננו, להודות לשבח, לרומם, להדר, לברך ולפלס על כל דברי שטות תשפחות, דוד בן ישי עבדך ושיבך. ברכות מאדם ועד עולם, ברוך אתה אדוני אל המלך גדול ותשפחות, אל ההודעות האדון הנפלאות, הבוקר בשירי זמרה, מלך מלכי העולמים. יתעלה ששמי רבי, יעלמה דברה לגלותי ובמלכותי, בחיי כל ומכל ובחיי כל בית ישראל, בגלה מזבחים, אמרו אמן. שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם לבי המלך. יתברך וישתבח, יתפועל שלמה ותנשא, יתעדה ותעלה לשרת קודשה. ולכו ללם בברכתם ושמרתה, ושפקתה ונחמתה, דמירה ויעלמה, ואמרו אמן. We are seated. ברוך אתה, מברך חושך, עושה שלום ובורא את הכל. כדוך הזה יש ברוך את לבית חדש כנראה. כי ירציך לבנה הזה, גזונך מלכנו לגלי העולם הבא. את זיוזך כל הלימות המשיח, אין דומה לך מושיענו, לבקיעת המתים. Join with us, page 108, El Adam. El Adon, Kol Ha'asim, Baruch Mevorach, V'Bikol Neshama, V'Tuva Malei Olam, Dak V'Gvura Asur V'Konu, Halim V'Gareh, Hayot HaKodesh, Ne'am Kavod, Alam Nechama Turning to page 109.
ביום שבת קודש ויאמר יושס ברוך הסלע תיפרץ גבורנו מלכנו וגואלנו גואל קדושים ישתבח שם עבדים כולם אוהבים כולם ברורים כולם גיבורים וכולם עושים בהמה וביראה רצון בונם וכולם פותחים את פיהם בקדושה ובטהרה ובשירה ובזמרה מברכים משבחים ועולים מריצים מקדישים וממליכים את שם האל המלך הדולגים וידורתו וכולם מקבלים עליהם לבלבו שמיים זה מזה ונותן רשות זה לזה להקיף לסמדת הרוח בשפה ברורה ורימה קדושה כולם כקדונים ויאמרים ביראה קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלוא הארץ והעברים וגאיות הקודש ברעש גדול של השרפים ואם אתה משבחים ויאמרים ברוך אדוני וידורכים עוד יתנו למלך החי וקיים אור חדש על ציון תאיר ויזכחו לנו מרע לאורו ברוך אתה אדוני יוצר המאורות.
Seated for wearing a talit and turn to page 111.
Agar b'aftanu Adonai Eloheinu Emla gedola v'teira amalta aleinu Avinu malkeinu Ba'u rabotenu She'achu beka she'achu beka Avinu malkeinu Echaim entre Bevenu Nodeinu Avinu Ha'ara Amen Nachem Aleinu V'ten b'libenu lechavi L'hashkel lishmoa V'l'amen Yishmor na'asot V'kayem et kol divrei Talmud Torah Taryava V'hayer ninu b'toratecha V'daber libeinu b'mitzvotecha V'yachzeh v'yavenu v'yavav yirah et shirecha V'yonenu le'olam Agadol de Agora Nagila Nisra Leka, Laila, Leka, Yeshua Seka. Ravielu, Meshalo, Meyar Maga, Megodares, Etolitelu, Romaniut, Romaniut, Learteinu, Diego Etorada, Aboker mi avoisel bia Shiva
Continue page 114.
Magin Moshiach Limehem. Emet Atahu Adonai. V'yam suf bakat atzit. Ram v'nisah v'adonot ha'shkitim. Tehilot yadam akor me'vora. Moshe v'neisrael gadu shira. V'simcha ra'ah v'yamru udan. Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai. Mi kamocha
Pray together now with Cantor, Agar, and we now begin with 115b.
Baruch Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avoteinu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Gadol HaGibor Yadonai, Elyon, Kohen HaMalim Tovim, Dekonei Yakol, Mezocher Kazei Avot, Umevigoel Ibnei Bneihem, Leman Shemo Be'Aga, Melech Moshiach Umadei, Baruch Adonai, Magin Agar, Ufoketzah, Atzavim Adonai, V'gayei Meitim Matarau Leokia, Morit Hadar, Mekalkel Chaim Be'ezer, V'gayei Meitim Be'acharitam, Tovei Knofim V'rovei Hovim, U'ma'asir Asurim, U'metayei Me'udato, V'shenei Ha'ar, V'idamo Ha'ar, U'midomena, Melech Levi, U'metayei, U'mashiach Yeshua, V'nei Malach Hayot Mekim, Baruch Adonai, V'chayei Because Shim Kavala Shem Shimakti Shimata Shimarova, because Elazeh Yamar. Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevot, Melech Haaretz Kevodo. Az vekol Rosh Gadol Adir Lekala Atrim Kol. Az vekol Rosh Gadol Adir Lekala Atrim Kol. V'itnasim, v'matzeratim, v'itnasim, v'matzeratim, v'itnasim, v'matzeratim, le'umatam Baruch Yomeru. Baruch Adonai Mimkomo, ממקומך מלכנו תופיע ותמלוך עלינו תפארים אנחנו לך מתי תמלוך בציון בקרוב בימינו לעולם ועד תשכון תתקדע ותתנער בירושלים עירך לדור ולנצח נצחים ועינינו תראנה מלכותך שיראו לך על ידי משיח צדקך לא קלנה לעולם ציון לדור ודור הללויה לדור ודור לדור ודור לדור ודור נעני לכל עליך ולנצח נצחים ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש לדור ודור לדור ודור לדור ודור נגיע לך ולנצח נצחים ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש ושיחך אלוהינו נבינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד כי ילך גדול כי ילך גדול לקדושת לדור ודור לדור ודור לדור ודור נגיע לך ולנצח נצחים ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש ברוך אתה אדוני
Continue now privately to page 120. Included.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו, ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו אמן. ועושה שלום במרומה, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ויאמרו אמן. ועושה שלום במרומה, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ויאמרו אמן. ועושה שלום במרומה, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ויאמרו אמן. ויאמרו אמן.
We want to just pause briefly. Actually, we don't want to pause just yet. We're going to conclude Shabbat, page 138. If we shut that, then we'll pause briefly.
והתקלת שמי רבה, ועלמא דפרת פרדפי מחותי, בחייכון ומקון וחית כל בית ישראל, בגלה וזכרים ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מהורה, ועולם עולם והמיה, יתברך. יתברך וישתבח לכל ונעשה, יתהדר דלהלל שמי דקודשה. בריחו לנו כל שירתה, תושבקתה ונקמתה, דמירם ביעלמה ואמרו אמן. תתקבל תכון ובאו תכון בכל ישראל, קודם ובון וישמעי ואמרו אמן. יהי שלום רבי שמעיה וקיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן.
We're going to pause briefly, and I want to wish each and every one of you Shabbat Shalom. I'm looking out of this room, and I am seeing some folks who have not been back in person until today, this morning. So first of all, let me just see. Seymour Mayer is here with Valerie, yes. First time we have seen Seymour in person in a very, very long time. Sora and Tamar, it is so wonderful to see you. And your Vivian is here. I'm sorry for forgetting your name, Vivian. Let's see, who has not been here among the community? Helene, this is your first day back, is it not? It's so wonderful to see you. Bob, first time, Bob is omnipresent at Beth Sholom, so it feels like we've seen him all the time, but this is our first time in person. Bob and Marilyn, so wonderful to see you. Richard, is this your first time in person? Second time, okay. All right, am I looking around the room and seeing Rabbi Lehman and Ruth? I think this is your first time back in person with all of us. Wow, is that nice? Steve, have you been, Rabbi Steve, this is your first time? Yes. Pam Rishonah. Ah, really? The Paritskis, why do I feel like you guys have been here for some things? The Paritskis, first time? All right, Lynn Paritsky, her first time back. And a few people were here last night. Anyhow. And Judy, yes, Judy Cohn. We have not seen Judy in person for over a year. So we've said many Shehechianus. I think we can do another Shehechianu right now for us coming back together. And for those of you who are here for the first time in well over a year. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. So we are going to, today is a day when we are not only feeling grateful for being together, but this is a day when Ray and Danielle Otero felt that it would be important to recognize the work of the staff of Beth Sholom congregation. So they have sponsored and are sponsoring the lunch in honor of the staff of the congregation. So we want to, when Danielle's back in the room and Ray are here, we want to, oh, there they are. There you are. You had been sitting over here. Now, okay. She's moving all over. Danielle, we really thank you. The staff appreciates the appreciation. So, we're going to let me just make another announcement, which is we're doing something that we weren't planning to do this morning, and this is not meant to establish a precedent, but when we invited people to read Torah this morning, we didn't know that we would definitively be in person. So the people who are reading Torah, and this is not a precedent, so if you're inclined to be a person who catastrophizes quickly, try to avoid that tendency of catastrophizing. This is a one-shot deal where the Torah readers are reading remotely because they were asked to read before we knew we would be here. We are still going to ask people to come up and do aliyot, and we are going to follow along in the Torah scroll where the Torah readers will be reading, and we will mic our Torah readers. It is not what we had intended to do as a precedent, but as I said, we are doing this one time, and we are not planning to have Torah reading be done remotely. We are always planning to have Torah reading be done in person. So this is not a precedent, those O ye who catastrophize. This is a one-shot situation, and if there is any precedent, we will have long discussions in the Religious Life Committee before things change dramatically like this. So we do want to invite people to come for aliyot, even though the Torah will be being read by our wonderful Torah readers who are not in this room. And so one of the aliyot will be reserved for the staff, just as a way of extending the appreciation that the Otero family has created for this morning. But we haven't yet selected people to have aliyot for the other 6 aliyot. So we would love to invite you to, if you have a simcha that you're celebrating in this month of June, maybe a birthday, an anniversary, we would love to invite you to take an aliyah if you would like. Anyone have a simcha they'd like to celebrate? Not a member of the staff, because we're getting the staff up, although I know that a couple of us have anniversaries, right? Yeah, Andy, you can come up. All right, so we have Rabbi Dr. Brown, okay, Devorah. All right, so the first aliyah, the second aliyah. Anyone else with a simcha to celebrate in this month? No? There we go. Okay, 2 of you are just, all right, so Periskis are the third aliyah. We have anyone else? All right, the Snyders have an aliyah, or both of you? Marilyn, okay, aliyah. The fourth aliyah is Marlene, I'm sorry. Who else do we have that needs, okay, anyone else feeling the need to be close to the Torah? We've run out of smachot. Anyone else would like an aliyah? Rick, how about an aliyah for you? Sure. That was enthusiastic. A past president of the congregation is in the room. We should have an aliyah. No, the fifth aliyah is to past presidents deserve, ongoing honors. Rick is the fifth. Anyone else? Any future president? Richard, the future president of Beth Sholom congregation. Here he is. Yeah. All right, anyone for the seventh aliyah? All right, Avi, that's it. Thank you all. We've got 7 aliyot, and our maftir will be those chanting the haf. Oh wait, but they're remote, right?
Yeah, there's remote.
All right, so we do need a maftir aliyah as well. We need one more. Yes. The Oteros. That's a great idea. The Oteros will get the maftir aliyah. Great idea, Eileen. All right, so we are not doing the full procession with the Torah for just yet, for whatever reason. So please join us in Kamocha, page 139. And then those of you who are going to be reading our Torah reading, we have our first Torah reader will be Beth Ann Goldman, and she will be reading our first 3 aliyot. But let's continue now, page 139, Chazan. Malchutecha, Malechut kol olamim, v'shavtecha b'chodor echador. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yimloch, le'olam v'amed, Adonai olam yichem.
Adonai yivarech et amo shalom. Arachim heitiv avirasonata et Zion. Yivarech amod Yerushalayim. Yivarech amod Yerushalayim.
So we're going to prepare the Torah to be read. The Chazan will now get that ready, and we are going to invite Beth Ann to get ready to read the first Aliyah, and we'll put the sound that she will be making. We'll ask her to unmute herself. And our first Aliyah, Rabbi Doctor, I think you were the first, although I'm not confident about my short-term memory these days. We are going to continue page 894 of the Chumash as we begin the opening of the Parashat Balak, the curse that will become the blessing. Hey.
Beth Ann, you can go.
She's on mute.
I'm ready? Good?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Amen. Vayar Balak ben Zippor. Hey, kol asher asa Yisrael amovi. Vayagar Moav mitnei Hamod ki ravu. Vayakatz Moav mitnei bnei Yisrael. Vayomer Moav al ziknei Midian. Ata Yelachu hakahal kol savivotenu kilcho hashor et Yarech hasadeh uvalak ben Zippor melech b'Moav ba'it hahih.
וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו, ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen.
Those of you who know the order of your Aliyot, just please be prepared to come up. So we don't. I should have actually done a Yambo. Ta'amod, Devorah, your Hebrew name. Devorah Beth Aliyah. The second Aliyah that Beth Ann is chanting from Boston for us. By the way, we are having Torah read from Boston to Elkins Park. It's found verse 5, page 895. And if you have the next Aliyah, you'll come as soon as Devorah starts her bracha.
Baruchu et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Borach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olam Asher Bachavanu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayishlach malachim el Bilam ben Beor v'Torah asher al hanahar aretz b'nei Amo v'ikro lo לאמור, הנה יצאם ממצרים, הנה הכניסה את עין הארץ, והוא יושב ממולי, ועתה לך נהר לי את העם הזה, יצומו ממני, אולי יוכל נחת בו, וגרשנו מן הארץ, כי ידעתי את אשר תברך מברך, ואשר טהור יואר. וילכו זקני מואב וזקני מידיין, וכתמים בידם, ויבואו אל בלעם, וידברו אליו דברי בלק.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Ya'amdu, Yidvorabat, Yidvor from Abat, I am the end of Et. Zalman Ben, Ruben Elias, we continue now with verse 8, page 895 of the Chumash. Beth is going to read this third Aliyah for us.
Baruch Adonai Habarach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Habarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayomer Alehem, Li'nufo halayla, v'hashivoti echem davar, kasher yadaber Adonai elai, v'yishru sarei Moav im Balaam, v'yavo Elohim el Balaam, v'hayomer mi hanashim ha'ela imach, v'yomer Balaam el Elohim, Balak ben Zippor, melech Moab, shalach elai. Hinei ha'am hayotzei mimitzrayim, v'chatzetin ha'aretz, atah lecha kavali hoto, uvayuchal v'hilachem bo begerashtir. Vayomer Elohim el Balaam, lo telech limahem, lo ta'or etam, ki baruchu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. All right, where's my 4? That's got to be a little bit on the ball here. All right, Martin Ta'amud, Malka Mashavat, Batbasha Viliviota, Agar, with the E. Our next Torah reader, all the way, I believe, from somewhere down south, on her road trip, Sheila Berman will be reading verse 13 for us at the bottom of page 895. Verse 13.
Baruch Adonai Habarach.
Baruch
Baruch
Adonai Baruch
Adonai Habarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan l'torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayakam Yoam Baboker Vayomer El Sarei Valach Lechu El Arsehem Ki Me'en Adonai Letiti Lehalo Imachem Vayakunu Sarei Moab Vayavo El Balak Yom Aru me ein Am Halo Imanu by Yosef, Allah shall walk, Sarim, Rabim, Benich, Badi, Me'ele, Vayavahu, El Bil'am, Vayam, Rulo, Ko, Amar, Allah, and Zipor, Al Timana, Mehalo, Elai, Ki Chabed Ahabed Hamaod V'chol Asher Tomar Elai E'aseh Ocha Nakala Li Ei Ha'am Hazeh Vaya Anbil Vayomer El Avdei Valak Imi Ten Li Valak Melo Veitaho Kesef Bizahav Lo Ucho La'afar Et He Adonai Elohai La'asah Ketana O Gedula Ba'ata Shefu Navazeh Gam Atem Halayla Ve'ed Ma Yosef Adonai Daber Imi Vayavo Elohim El Bil'am Laila By Yomer Lo Im Likro Lecha Uha Anashim Kun Leik Itam Ba'a Et Hadaber Asher Hadaber Eilecha Oto Haseh.
All right, despite a little bit of technical difficulty, Sheila, we thank you for Cantor's Beth Ann. Thank you for your beautiful Torah reading as well. And Marlene, you'll finish the bracha.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu tirat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tad b'chenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Our fifth Aliyah, Louise Goldman. We have the Goldman family reading Torah for us this morning. Louise begins verse 21, the bottom of page 896. Ya'amod. Moshe Eli Ben. Yitzchak Gedalia.
Baruch et Adonai HaBarach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayakom Bil'am Baboker. Vayachavosh et Atunom. Vayelech im Sarei Moab. Vayichar av Elohim. Ki holehu. Vayityatze. Malach Adonai. Baderech L'satano Behu Rochev Al Atona Ushnei
Le'arav imo. Vatera ha'atov et malach Adonai nitzav baderech b'charbo shelufa bayado vateit ha'aton min haderech vatelech basadeh vayach Bil'am et ha'aton v'haton ha'darech vaya'amod malach Adonai b'mish'o ha'kramim gader mizeh v'gader mizeh v'tereh ha'aton et malach Adonai v'tilachetz el hakir v'hilchatz et regel Bil'am el hakir v'yosef l'hakotah v'yosef malach Adonai avur Vaya'amod b'makom sar asher ein derech lintod yamin usmo v'tereh ha'aton et malach Adonai v'tirbat tachat Bil'am Vayichar af Bil'am vayad et ha'aton b'makel.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. We say Yishar Kochet to Louise, and Jerry Barford will now be our Torah reader for the 6th Aliyah, beginning verse 28, page 897 of the Chumash. Ya'amod Yerachnu ben Aaron, Aliyah Shlishi.
Baruch Adonai et המבורך.
ברוך אדוני בורך לעולם ועד.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
אמן.
Vayiftach Adonai et pi haton. Can you hear me? Vayiftach Adonai et pi haton. V'tomer leBil'am me'asiti lecha ki kitamti se shalosh regalim. Vayomer Bil'am la'aton ki dalalt bi ru yesh cheref bi'adi ki ata haragti v'tomer hatan el Bil'am halo anochi atonecha asher ahavta alai me'odecha ad hayom hazeh haskein hiskanti la'asot lecha kol vayomer lo.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
We're continuing now at verse 31, page 898 of the Chumash. Jerry will continue. Ya'amod Avanosh Menachem Yisrael, Aliyah Shvi'ik.
Achudnai Hamarach.
Baruch Alei Barak Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Leolam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'chavanu mikol alim natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten Torah.
Amen.
Amen.
Adonai, et einei v'olam vayar, et malach Adonai nitzaf b'derech, v'charbo shlufa b'yado, vayikod vayishtachu li'apiv, vayomer elav malach Adonai, Alma Hikita et atonecha seh shalosh regalim hine anochi yatzati lesatan ki arat haderech lenegdi batir ani haton batet levanai zeh shalosh regalim Ulai natita mipanai kiata gamotecha harakti biotachecheiti vayomer bilam el malach Adonai chatati ki lo yadati kiata nitzav likrati badarech Beata imra beinecha ashuvali vayomer malach Adonai el bilam lechim hanashim be'efes et hadavar asher adaber elecha oto tedaber Vayelech bilam im sarei bala, vayishma bala kiva bilam, vayetze likrato el Moab, asher al gevul Arnon, asher biktzei hagevul, vayomer bala. Bilam, Halo, Shalom, Shalachti elecha likrolach, lama lo halachti elai, ha'umnam lo uchal kabedecha, vayomer Bilam el balak, hine vati elecha, Ata hayachol uchal daber me'uma hadavar asher yasim Elohim b'fioto adaber.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'chavanu Torah emet v'chayei olam noten b'tocheinu. Baruch Atah Adonai noten Torah.
Amen.
The Yarpin is us.
Invite you to be seated. The Cantor will invite you to hold the names and faces of people in your lives in need of healing as he continues with Mishaberach L'Cholim before the Matir.
Mishaberach שברח אבותינו כל הברכה לאמותינו. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. משברח אמותינו מקור הברכה לאבותינו. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
We invite you to turn ahead down to the Maftir reading. You'll find it on page 908 of the Chumash, verse 7, page 908. Jerry will be reading, and Ray will be taking the Aliyah. Ya'amod, Chanach ben, Rafael, Maftir.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך,
ברוך לברך לעולם ועד.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
אמן.
Vayar Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aharon HaKohen Vayakom mitoch ha'edah Vayikach Romach biado Vayavo Acharish Yisrael El HaKuba Vayikur et Shnehem et Ish Yisrael V'et Isha El Kovata Vateatzar HaMagefa Me'al B'nei Yisrael Vayiyu HaMetim B'Magefa Arba v'esrim Aleph.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. At this time, we want to invite you, if you're able to rise, I'm going to surprise Marlene by asking her if she'll come dressed in Torah. Marlene Kastner here. As Rob lifts the Torah. I'm sorry. All right, Rob, we've been waiting for this Hanukkah for a year and a half. Here we go.
Hot box extraordinaire, Rabbi. Hot box extraordinaire.
Vezot HaTorah, Vezot HaTorah, Asher Sama Moshe Lifnei Bnei Yisrael, Al Pi Adonai B'Yad Moshe. Marlene over there.
Torah, 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 Shiva Moshe. Torah, 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 Torah.
This is next. This is Torah, all right, I'm going to stick that up against the wall here. We're going to invite you to be seated. And we are, by the way, these three women who have been reading a lot of our Torah this morning, Sheila, Louise, and Jerry all studied and became adult in a mitzvah together. Louise and Sheila are going to be doing the Haftarah that we will be reading for this parasha. The Haftarah, the words of the prophet Micah, which begins on page 915. And if you look through this Haftarah, you will see that Micah, the prophet, invokes the memory of Balaam, and the memory that although Balaam had intended to do harm, through the blessings and the power of God, he did good, and that ultimately he's saying to the Israelites, if we turn our attentions to the good, that is how we will receive God's blessing. The last lines of the Haftarah, Im asot mishpat yavat chesed, v'hatnei alechet im Elohecha. These are the ways to bring blessing in the world by doing justice, to love goodness, and walking humbly with God. You'll find the Haftarah, page 915.
Should I start?
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'neiim tovim v'ratzav v'divreihem hana'emarim be'emet.
Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'torah u'v'mashavto u'v'Yisrael amo u'v'nvi'ei ha'emet v'tzedek v'haya she'erit Yaakov בקרב עמים רבים, כתב מעד אדוני, קרבים עלי עשב, אשר לא יכבד לאיש, ולא ייחל לבני אדם. והיה שארית יעקב בגויים בקרב עמים רבים כאריה בבהמות יער ככפיר בעדרי צאן אשר נמעבר ורמס וטרף ואין מציל. תרום ידך על צריך וכל אויביך יכרתו. והיה ביום ההוא נאום אדוני והכרתי סוסיך מקרבך והאבתי מרכבותיך והכרתי ערי ארצך והרסתי כל מבצריך והכרתי כשפים מידיך ומעוננים לא יהיו לך. והכרתי בסיליך ומצבותיך מקרבך ולא תשתחווה עוד למעשה ידיך. ונטשתי אשריך מקרבך והשמדתי עריך ועשיתי באב וחמא נקם את הגויים אשר לא שמעו.
שיעונה אשר אדוני אומר, אומרי והרים ותשמענה הבאות קולך. שמעו הרים את ריב אדוני והאיתנים מוסדי הארץ. כי ריב אדוני עממו ועם ישראל יברך. עמי מעשיתי לך אומה הלאתיך הנביא. כי העליתיך מארץ מצרים ומבית עבדים הדיתיך. ואשלח לפניך את משה אהרון ומרים. עמי זכרנה מה יעש הלך מלך מואב ומענה אותו בלעם בן בעור מן השיטים עד הגלגל למען דעת זכות אדוני. אמר אקדם אדוני יקף לאלוהי מרום הקד מהנו בעולות בעגלים בני שנה. הירצה אדוני באלפי אלים בריבו נחלי שמן האתן בחורי קצעי פרי ויתני פתח נפשי. הגיד לך אדם מה טוב ומה אדוני דורש ממך. כי יפסוק משפט ואהבת חסד וחסניה לך לאחד עם אלוהיך. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם צור כל עולמים צדיק בכל הדורות האל הנאמן האומר ועושה.
כל דבריו אמת וסדר עבודה הנביא יום השבת הזה נתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו לקדושה ולמלוכה לכבוד ולתפארת. אלוהינו אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך. תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש
So I made a mistake, which was we were supposed to be honoring the staff, and they're supposed to have an aliyah, but they didn't have an aliyah. So we're going to invite the staff to come to the bima, who are here, and I'm going to invoke a modified prayer for those who serve the community, for all of the staff members in Beth Sholom, who the Oteros wanted to honor. So if you are part of the staff, we would invite you to come to the bima and to be recognized by the community, which is what the Oteros wanted to have happen. So come forward so you can be seen. So we want to thank Shabbos. So I don't, I'm not going to actually invoke everyone's title because I'm not sure I know exactly what everyone's title is, but we want to thank Robin Minkoff, Stacy Salzman, Andrea Otto, Eileen Weingram, Emily Wright, Julie Atchik, Terry Strauss. We want to thank the clergy as well. And so I'm going to take you on a modified version of a prayer for those who serve the community, which is found on page 148 of our prayer books. We want to say, may God, who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, we ask you to bless all of these people who are standing on the bima, who serve this Kehillah Kedoshah, this holy congregation, and who pour inordinate numbers of their hours, of their days, their time, their energy, their love, their devotion, their commitment to serving this congregation well above and beyond what anyone would expect based upon their job descriptions. We want to invite you and ask you, O Holy One of blessing, to bless all those who work as professionals for this congregation. We ask you to give them health and blessings. We ask that you remove any sickness or difficulties from them. We ask that they continue to be able to have the energy, the passion, and the commitment to continue to be able to serve this congregation. And may they be able, despite some times in which the going gets tough, may they be able to feel your blessings, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. May they feel the holiness of this endeavor that they are engaged in. May they have strength and continued success in their service of our community and congregation. And let us all say, Amen. Thank you to each and every one of you, and I think that was even a little better than I believed. So, my mistakes sometimes get okay. We are going to invite you back to your seats. We'll look forward to schmoozing with you at lunch after the service. We're going to put the Torah scroll back, just with the last verses on page 154. The Cantor will lead us, and we will return the Sefer Torah. We invite you to rise. We invite you to be seated. We're hoping. Are we muted, Chazan? Are you muted? Shabbat Shalom to everyone. So we all know that Moshe Rabbeinu was the greatest of all of our prophets. The greatest prophet the Jewish people has ever known and had. And yet it might surprise you to know that in the Midrash, there is a surprising challenger to the greatness of Moshe Rabbeinu. And in fact, that second prophet, who in some ways rivals the greatness of Moshe Rabbeinu, is the non-Jewish prophet Bilam. And this is according to the rabbis of the Midrash, that they put him on the level almost of Moshe Rabbeinu. So I want to just look with you a little bit about the nature of these two prophets, and perhaps what we can learn about, surprisingly, their vulnerabilities that we can think about in terms of our own lives. So we know that despite the fact that these were two great prophets, according to both the Torah and the Midrash, that both Bilam and Moshe had imperfections. First, each of them lacked confidence that they would be able to be successful in the missions that they were given. We are told that Moshe considers himself not a man of words. He's arel safatayim. He's a man of uncircumcised lips. And he doesn't want to be God's spokesperson when God calls to Moshe. Likewise, Bilam initially wants to resist what Balak is asking him to do, to curse the Israelites. And he says, I can only say the words that God puts in my mouth. If you ever get a chance to read any of Aviva Zornberg's commentary on the Torah, she is one of the greatest Torah scholars of our generation. And she writes in her book, Bewilderments, when she compares Bilam and Moshe, she writes that they both suffer from speech impediments of sorts. Neither of them feels that they have full command over their powers of speech. And they both question their ability to fulfill the missions which they have been charged. Another similarity that both prophets share, both Moshe and Bilam, is that they are both prone to anger. So we see the anger of Moshe when he comes down from the mountain with the Luchot Habrit, with the tablets of the covenant, and sees the people worshiping a golden calf. And we know that he smashes those tablets in anger. And then, of course, we read in last week's parasha, or it might have been 2 weeks ago, that the people are complaining once again, which they are always doing, about this time a lack of water. And Moshe, instead of speaking to the rock, as God has commanded, takes his staff and smashes the rock in anger. And he says to the people, in anger, you rebels, are we supposed to get water out of this rock for you? So Moshe has a temper. And we also see Bilam with a temper, right? He's on his donkey. He doesn't see the angel that God has brought. The donkey stops. The donkey's not willing to move. And so what does Bilam do? He basically curses his donkey, beats his donkey, until finally Bilam recognizes that in fact there is an angel of God who is there all the time. Bilam was so angry at this donkey that he says, if I had had a sword with me, I would have killed you. This is what he says. So both of these prophets, who both think of themselves as being not perfectly worthy of the speech which they are asked to give, are both capable of great anger. Another similarity between the two of them is that both have a desire as to where they should be able to end their days, and neither of them have that desire fulfilled. We know that Moshe Rabbeinu wants to go into the promised land with the people. And seemingly in punishment for his striking of the rock, God is going to say to Moshe that you will not go across the land and lead the people into the land of Canaan. That is not something that you will be able to do, even though you desire that. What we may or may not remember, though, is that ironically, Moshe Rabbeinu is buried right here in where this week's parasha takes place. Moshe is buried in the land of Moab, near Bat Peor, which is the exact place where Balak commands Bilam to curse the Israelites. It's right in this place that we learn that Moshe Rabbeinu will be buried. And we read also in this week's week's parasha later, what does Bilam want? Bilam wants that he says, let me die the death of the righteous and let my end be like theirs. But we come to understand in rabbinic literature that Bilam does not get the end of the righteous. In fact, Bilam is counted among those, according to the rabbis, in Masechet Sanhedrin, as those who have no share in the world to come. So just as Moshe is denied entry into the promised land, into the land of Canaan, Bilam is denied entrance into the world to come. The other interesting connection between the two of them is that both of them have interestingly unique abilities to connect with God, but in slightly different ways. Moshe's ability to connect with God is literally peh el peh, that Moshe is able to speak to God mouth to mouth. Obviously we know that Moshe is described as seeing God panim al panim, face to face, but there's a little contradiction that God says that no one can see God's face, but they have this incredibly intimate relationship that's described in the Torah, that they see each other directly in a way that no one else does. All other prophets are as though they see God through an obscured looking glass, we are told. So Moshe has that extraordinary ability to know God directly, but Bilam has a very unique ability. Bilam is someone who actually knows the exact moments of God's wrath and can actually use that moment of wrath. We read once again in the Talmud, in Masechet Brachot, that God is angry only for a fraction of a second every day. God is angry only for a fraction of a second every day. But Bilam kind of is like this lightning rod who is able to kind of connect with that anger, even if Bilam can't always manage his own anger. He seems to be able to know exactly when God has that fraction of a moment of anger and is able to use that to know God's wrath. And it was through his knowledge of God's wrath that it's Bilam who's able to say to Balak, how can I possibly curse this people when God is bringing blessing to this people? How can I doom this people when God will not doom them? And so why do I bring up the issues of the relationship between these two prophets who on the one hand couldn't be more different in terms of their role in Jewish tradition? Obviously, we are studying the Torah of Moshe, and Bilam, other than Matovu, is kind of a footnote for we, the Jewish people. And one of the things that I think that we learn about both of them is that to be a prophet of God is not to be expected to be perfect and to be a person without flaws. And in fact, part of what each prophet is able to make manifest is that they are able to use their flaws and despite their weaknesses and vulnerabilities to become agents of what God's purpose is in this world. And what that I think means for each and every one of us is that instead of spending more of our time beating ourselves up for our own weaknesses and our own many imperfections, perhaps what we learn from these two prophets is that we can actually think about how we can take each of the vulnerabilities that we have and figure out how even with those vulnerabilities we can be of service to God. The Jewish vision, at least as outlined in our parashah with these two prophets, is that we don't strive for perfection. We strive to take our imperfections and find how they too can be of service in this world. May we all be blessed with seeing our imperfections as vehicles for helping God's presence to be made more manifest in this world. Ken Yehi Ratzon, so may it be. Shabbat Shalom. We are going to now, I need to unmute myself before we get that feedback stuff, and we're going to, Cantor's going to unmute himself, and we're going to invite you to now prepare for the Musaf service, which will be our prelude to a very important event this morning, which will be a prelude to lunch. And so we invite you to, if you're able to rise to do so, we continue with the Chatzi Kaddish, page 155.
ילמד יברא קירותי ומליק מלכותי לחייכון וביום אחד ובחיי לכל בית ישראל בגלה בגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן ישמע רבה מבורך לעולם לעיה יתברך וישתבח ויתואר ותרמה ותנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמן קודשה לילה מן הכל ברכתה ושירתה ושבחתה ונחמתה זמירן ויעלמה ויאמרו אמן.
Continue together, page 156b.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו אלוהי אברהם אלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב אלוהי שרה אלוהי רבקה אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה האל הגדול הגיבור והנורא אל העליון גואל החסדים הטובים וקודש הכל וזוכר כזה אבות ומביא גואל לבניהם למען שמו ויאהבה מלך עוזר ופוקד ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ופוקד שרה אתה גיבור אדוני והייתי מטריו להושיע מוריד הטל מקלקל חיים בכסף מקיים מתים ברחמים רבים סומך נופלים ברופא חולים ומדיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר וכמוך בעל גבורות ובינו מלך מלך ממיתה ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה ונאמנת לך חיות מתים ברוך אתה אדוני וחיי המתים
ספרי קודש ומקדישים שמך בקודש וכתוב בבריח זה אל זה בימה
נריצך ונקדישך כסוד שיח שרפי קודש המקדישים שמך בקודש ככתוב בבריח וקרא זה אל זה ויאמר
קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות ובכל הארץ כבודו
קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלוא כל הארץ כבודו כבודו מלא עולם בשעריו שואלים זה לזה היה מקום כבודו לעומתם ברוך יאמרו ברוך אדוני ממקומו הוא יפם ברחמים ויחונם המייחדים שמו ערב הבוקר בכל יום תמיד פעמיים באהבה שמע אומרים
שמע ישראל אדוני אדוני
שמע ישראל אלוהינו אדוני אחד הוא אלוהינו הוא אבינו מלכנו הוא מושיענו הוא ישמיענו ישמיענו ברחמיו, שנית יהנה כל החי, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ובדברי קודשך כתוב לאמור. ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהי ציון, לדור ודור הללויה. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד כל אליך. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד כל אליך. ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, קדושתך נקדיש. ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גודלך. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גודלך. כי אל מלך גדול וקדוש אתה, וקדוש וקדוש אתה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. הקטנת שבת השם.
You're still adopting this. Can you do so as we concluded? Feel free to be seated. Cantor continues, page 181. Kaddish Shalem.
יתרבק שמי רבה, ועלמא דברה כתיב ונכותי, בחיי כל ומכל נבחרי כל בית ישראל, בגלוי זכרי ואמרו אמן. ישמנה בממורה, ועולם עולם מהוויה יתברך. יתברך וישתבח ותועל ותרום ותנשא, ויתהדר ותעלה לשמי דקודשה. בריחו למקום שנתת, שכתב נחמתה, דמירם ילמה ואמרו אמן. תתקבע ותכון נבע ותכון דכל ישראל, קודם ובהון וישמעי ואמרו אמן. יהי שלום רב משמיים וקיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום ברומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי ארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל עמונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלאכי המלאכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. על כן אתן ככתוב בתורתך אדוני מלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר ביד
I want to invite those of you who are in the process of mourning or observing a yard site to remain standing and to join with me in the words of Mourner's Kaddish, page 184. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbi, Yalma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon, v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, v'agala u'bizman karim v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabba meborach v'olam omei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudusha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush b'chata v'nechemata. Damiran v'yalma v'yimru. Amen. Yehei shlama Rabba min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav. Huya aseh shalom. Aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. We ask God, who brings peace and comfort on high, to bring peace and comfort to those of you who are remembering your loved ones. Just a few words before we finish the service. First, we want to again, I want to just say that really this is the first time, we've been together in other settings, but this is the first time that I think for those of us who are in this room, we can hear each other's voices when we are singing, and the sense of praising God by being led by our Cantor, but being able to hear each other's voices as we do that together is just such an incredible blessing. After many, many months of mostly asking people to mute when they are on their Zoom, hearing your voices has been an extraordinary blessing. I know I'm speaking for the Cantor when I say this as well, to be able to sing with everyone. We want to thank the Otero family for thanking the staff and honoring the staff and sponsoring this luncheon in honor of Beth Sholom staff. We truly appreciate your awareness of the hard work that the staff does on behalf of the community. We appreciate it. We also want to say Yasher Koach to all of the women who read Torah and chanted Haftarah this morning. We want to thank Beth Ann and Louise, and we want to thank Sheila and Jerry. And am I missing anyone? I hope not. Okay. Beth Ann, Sheila, Louise, and Jerry. Yes, okay, I got the four. So we thank those of you who read Torah for us this morning. As I said, this is not a precedent. We will generally only be reading Torah in person with the minyan in the future. So thank you for your understanding during some of the technical difficulties for those of us who are here with our Wi-Fi connection. The one exception to our coming back together from here on in is next Shabbat. We know that many people are away. So next Shabbat, both Friday and Shabbat morning, will be our last virtual only service for quite a while, as far as I can tell. And then from that point forward, we are back in person and believe we will be serving food after services on Shabbat morning. So we hope that we'll see you then. We did make services starting July 9th, I believe, at 9:30. So, you know, we used to take about 2 hours and 45 minutes to do a service. It's about 2 hours and 10 in for this one. So we've cut a few things out, made it a little tighter. I'm sure that I don't hear too many complaints from people wishing it were longer. But no one's had a chance to tell me that yet, but I can already anticipate. But we are planning 9:30 or so. We didn't process with the Torah scroll. We did a couple of things that cut some time off, but 9:30 services starting July 9th. We'll see if that works in terms of how long our services are going. Remember, a lot of you are going to be offering Divrei Torah this summer. A lot of members of the community will be doing that, so we look forward to hearing your words of Torah. Please be in touch with Cantor Agar if you'd like to read Torah, chant Haftarah. We really want to make this a summer in which all of you are the ones leading our community in hearing Torah, being chanted, learning Torah from your Divrei Torah. and leading us in prayer.
July 10th.
July 10th. 9th, 10th, whatever. Yeah. So just again, lunch is going to be served in the Fishman Auditorium for those of you who need the elevator, obviously, to come around. We'll see those of you who need access to the elevator. Other things that we need to announce, I don't think so. There's going to be a Neshama band service on July 9th, Friday night. There'll be dinner and a service with some of the Neshama folks on July 30th. You will not be seeing me for the next 3 weeks. Cantor will be holding down the fort very capably without me, and I will then return the favor when he goes away for 3 weeks for the following 3 weeks. So you're going to have alternating clergy for the next 6 weeks, and both of us are looking forward to a little time away, so we can come back refreshed and rejuvenated from some time away. We will conclude the service on page 187, Adon Olam. I would have invited all the kids to come. There's all right. So you want to come? All right. You've got Eli. So come on. All right. He's going to stay with his dad. All right. So Adon Olam, page 187, and we'll see you for Kiddush in the Fishman.
Adon Olam, Hashem Olam,
B'Tem
V'yein Nasa V'Etzokol,
Hamelech Shemo Nikra, Yacharei Lo Nakol, Hayam Yahu Mobeh, Yeh Betifara. Vehu Eli v'chayloli, v'sur v'evli b'yitzhara, vehu nisi u'manosi,
v'nalekosi b'yom ekra, b'yado achiruki, v'tishan v'ya'ira, v'imruki geviyati, Adonai v'lo ira. All right.